Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to exploring the really fascinating intersection of art therapy and neuroscience.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, we've got excerpts from the book Art Therapy and Clinical Neuroscience and a bunch of visuals too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, diagrams, sketches, even some photos to kind of help shed light on how our brains respond to art and the therapeutic process.
Wow.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll walk away with not just, the core concepts, but some truly mind-blowing insights into how art therapy actually impacts the brain.
I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, me too. It's really amazing to think about how art therapy and neuroscience actually complement each other so well.
Yeah, it is. It's not just about, creating pretty pictures.
Right, exactly.
It's about really understanding the intricate workings of the brain
hmm
and how art can actually be used to tap into its incredible healing power.
It's like, yeah.
It's powerful stuff.
One of the most fundamental ideas we encounter right away is this concept of the mind-body connection. For so long, we've treated the mind and body as like these separate entities,
Right.
but neuroscience is proving that's not the case at all.
Yeah, totally.
What we think and feel directly impacts our physical well-being and vice versa.
Absolutely.
It's pretty fascinating, right?
It really is neuroscience showing us just how interconnected the mind and body truly are.
Yeah.
And art therapy really fits perfectly within this mind-body approach to healing.
It does. It's like art therapy gives us this really tangible way to address mental and emotional challenges through physical creation and expression.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's a bridge between the internal and external, the mind and the body.
Yeah, exactly.
So how does this all play out in our nervous system?
Hmm.
The network that's constantly sending messages throughout our body,
Hmm.
you know?
Right. So think of your nervous system as like this vast communication network with two main branches, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system.
Okay.
The central nervous system, it includes the brain and spinal cord,
Yeah. Yeah.
the command center.
Makes sense.
And then the peripheral nervous system branches out from there, connecting to the rest of the body.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's within that peripheral nervous system where we find the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, right?
Uh-huh.
Those are the systems that are constantly working to maintain balance within our bodies.
Absolutely. The sympathetic nervous system, or SNS, is like our body's gas pedal.
Oh.
It kicks into gear when we're faced with stress, getting us ready for action.
Yeah.
Imagine you're facing like a dangerous situation.
Right.
Your heart races, breathing quickens, your muscles tense up.
Yeah.
That's your SNS preparing you to fight or flee.
Wow, okay.
And then on the flip side, we have the parasympathetic nervous system, or PNS,
Okay.
and that's the brake pedal, helping us calm down or return to a state of rest and relaxation.
Oh, I see. So it's all about maintaining this delicate balance between the gas pedal and the brake.
Exactly.
We need both systems to function properly.
Right.
And art therapy can actually help us regulate that balance, allowing us to tap into the power of both systems.
Precisely. Art therapy can be incredibly effective in helping us regulate our nervous system.
Wow.
Imagine creating a piece of art that requires like focus and concentration.
Right.
As you become absorbed in the process, you might notice your breathing slowing down,
Yeah.
your muscles relaxing,
Mm.
and a sense of calm washing over you.
Right.
That's your PNS kicking in.
Wow.
Or imagine creating a piece of art that allows you to, express strong emotions like anger or sadness.
Yeah.
As you release those emotions through art, you might notice a sense of relief or catharsis.
Okay.
It's your SNS doing its job, helping you process and release pent-up energy.
So it's like art therapy gives us this direct line to our nervous system, allowing us to consciously influence its activity.
You got it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the nervous system as a whole, but how does this all connect to specific regions of the brain? I know our source material dives into the cortex and the limbic system.
Yeah.
Let's start with the cortex.
Okay.
What exactly is the cortex and how does it relate to art therapy?
So the cortex is the outermost layer of the brain, the wrinkled part you often see in pictures.
Oh, okay.
It's responsible for all those higher level thinking and processing skills.
Okay.
Things like language, decision-making, and planning.
Right.
And it's divided into 5 lobes, each with its own specialized functions.
Okay, so 5 lobes.
Yeah.
We've got the frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital, and insular.
Okay.
They each play a unique role in how we perceive, create, and experience art, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
Think of it this way. Each lobe of the cortex is like a different department in a bustling art studio.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. For instance, the frontal lobe, that's like the art director, the visionary.
Okay.
It's all about planning, making decisions, and, controlling our impulses.
Mm.
So when you're working on a piece of art, your frontal lobe, it helps you choose your colors, compose the elements, and make creative decisions.
Okay.
Like the conductor of an orchestra,
I love that.
bringing all the different elements together into a harmonious whole.
So we've got the frontal lobe as the art director.
Uh-huh.
What about the parietal lobe?
Yeah.
What's its role in our art studio?
The parietal lobe is like the skilled hand of the artist.
Oh, okay.
It's involved in processing sensory information, particularly touch and spatial awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Crucial for things like manipulating art materials and understanding where things are in space.
So the parietal lobe helps us understand how to hold a paintbrush, how to mix colors, and how to create three-dimensional forms on a two-dimensional surface.
Exactly. It helps us translate our creative visions into tangible forms.
Wow. Okay, so we've got the visionary frontal lobe and the skilled hand of the parietal lobe.
Yeah.
What about the temporal lobe? What's its contribution to our art studio?
The temporal lobe is the soundtrack composer.
Oh, cool.
It processes auditory information and language.
Okay.
So not only is it helping us understand like spoken instructions or feedback we might receive during art therapy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also allowing us to process any music or sounds we might incorporate into our creative process.
Right.
Think about how certain types of music can evoke different emotions
Right.
or inspire creativity.
Totally.
That's the temporal lobe at work, weaving a sonic tapestry that enhances our art experience.
Okay, so we've got our art director, our skilled hand, and our soundtrack composer.
Right.
What about the occipital lobe?
That's the master of visual perception.
Oh, okay.
All about vision.
Makes sense.
It allows us to perceive and interpret visual information.
Okay.
Everything from recognizing objects and faces to appreciating the colors, shapes, and forms in a work of art.
So it's like the foundation of our visual experience.
Yeah.
And without it, we wouldn't be able to appreciate art at all.
Exactly. It's the lens through which we experience the visual world.
Wow, okay, we've covered 4 of the 5 lobes.
Yeah.
What about that last one, the insular cortex?
Right.
It sounds a little mysterious.
Yeah.
What's its role in all of this?
The insular cortex is fascinating. It's a bit more hidden, tucked away within a fold in the brain,
Okay.
but it plays a crucial role in connecting our bodily sensations to our conscious awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how you feel when you're creating art.
Yeah.
Maybe you feel the coolness of clay in your hands,
Right.
or the smoothness of a paintbrush on canvas,
Mm-hmm.
or the satisfying scratch of a pencil on paper.
Yeah.
The insular cortex helps us tune into those physical sensations and connect them to our emotional mental processing.
So it's like the insular cortex is the bridge between our physical experience of art making and our internal experience of emotions and thoughts.
Precisely. It
Yeah.
helps us integrate those different levels of experience, creating a more holistic understanding of ourselves and our relationship to the world around us.
That makes sense. And I think that's a good place to wrap up part 1 of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
We've covered a lot of ground already, exploring the mind-body connection, the nervous system, and the amazing complexity of the cortex.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it really is.
But it's so fascinating.
Join us in part 2 as we delve even deeper into the brain, exploring the limbic system and how it relates to art therapy.
I can't wait. So we're ready to continue our exploration of the brain.
Absolutely. Last time we talked about the cortex, that outer layer of the brain responsible for all those like higher level functions.
Right, right.
What about the limbic system? It sounds almost mythical.
Yeah, the limbic system is often referred to as the emotional center of the brain, and for good reason.
Okay.
It's a group of interconnected structures, buried deep within the brain,
Mm-hmm.
and it plays a crucial role in our emotional responses, our memories, and even our motivation.
Okay, so it's dealing with some pretty powerful stuff.
It is.
What are some of the key players within the limbic system, and how do they connect to art therapy?
Well, 2 of the most important structures in the limbic system are the amygdala and the hippocampus.
Oh,
The amygdala, it's like our brain's security guard,
okay.
constantly scanning for potential threats.
Right.
It's responsible for detecting threats and triggering that fight or flight response we talked about earlier.
Sure.
So when we encounter something that triggers fear or anxiety, the amygdala is the one sounding the alarm.
So it's the amygdala that's responsible for that feeling of dread we get when we have to give a presentation or, that surge of panic when we see a spider scurry across the floor.
Exactly. It's our primal survival mechanism,
Wow.
kicking in to protect us from danger.
And what about the hippocampus? What's its role in all of this?
The hippocampus is all about memory,
Okay.
forming new memories, retrieving old ones.
Okay.
It's like our brain's librarian,
Right.
carefully cataloging and storing all of our experiences. And what's fascinating is that in the context of art therapy, the hippocampus is involved in both explicit memory,
Okay.
those conscious memories of facts and events,
Right.
and implicit memory, those unconscious emotional memories that often shape our behaviors and feelings without us even realizing it.
Okay, that distinction between explicit and implicit memory is really interesting.
Yeah,
So explicit memory is like, remembering what you had for breakfast this morning
right.
or recalling information for a test.
Ah,
While implicit memory is more like that gut feeling you get when you meet someone new or that sense of unease you feel in a certain place, even though you can't quite explain why.
that's a great way to put it. And art therapy can be a powerful tool for accessing and processing both types of memory.
It's amazing. When you talk about art tapping into those deep emotional centers of the brain, it reminds me of one of the most memorable points in the book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a study mentioned that found that simply viewing art can activate the same brain areas as experiencing love.
It's true. It's true.
That's amazing.
It really is. And it speaks to the profound power of art to evoke emotions and create meaningful experiences. Think about it. When you stand before a painting that moves you, you're not just, processing visual information.
Right.
Your brain is lighting up in areas associated with love, pleasure, and reward.
Wow.
It's like your brain is falling in love with the artwork.
I love that.
And this isn't just some, whimsical idea.
Right.
It's backed up by scientific evidence. Researchers have used brain imaging techniques to show that viewing art can actually trigger the release of dopamine,
Wow.
that feel-good neurotransmitters associated with pleasure and reward.
So our brains are wired to find art rewarding.
Yeah,
No wonder we find ourselves drawn to museums and galleries, even if we don't consider ourselves art experts.
right.
It's like our brains are craving that dopamine hit.
Exactly. And this has, profound implications for art therapy. If simply viewing art can have such a powerful effect on our brains.
Right.
Imagine the potential of actually creating art.
Yeah, it's like opening up a whole new level of emotional engagement and therapeutic benefit.
It is. It is.
Okay, so we've talked about how art can tap into our emotions and memories through the limbic system.
Right.
But what about our senses? How do our senses feed into the brain and impact our experience of art,
Right.
especially in a therapeutic context?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Our senses are constantly bombarding us with information, right?
Oh.
Sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and textures.
Right.
And when it comes to art, we're engaging multiple senses at once.
Yeah.
We're seeing the colors and shapes, feeling the textures of the materials,
Right.
maybe even smelling the paint or the clay.
Right. It's a full body experience.
It is. It is.
And I know the book talks about how sensory information travels through the brain via two pathways, the low road and the high road.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you explain what that means
Yeah.
and how those pathways relate to art therapy?
Yeah, so think of the low road as the express route for sensory information.
Yeah.
It's fast, unconscious, and primarily focused on survival.
Okay.
It allows us to react quickly to potential threats without having to consciously think about it.
Right.
For example, if you're walking in the woods and you see a snake slithering across your path,
Yeah.
your low road kicks in,
Oh, yeah.
sending a surge of adrenaline through your body and preparing you to jump back
Right.
before you even have time to register what you're seeing.
Right, right. So it's that instinctual, like, split-second reaction that helps keep us safe.
Exactly.
Okay, what about the high road?
The high road is the scenic route.
Okay,
It's slower, more deliberate,
okay.
and involves conscious processing and interpretation of sensory information.
Got it.
So it's what allows us to appreciate the beauty of a sunset,
Right.
savor the flavors of a delicious meal, or, analyze the meaning of a complex work of art.
Okay.
So going back to our snake example, after your initial low road reaction,
Right.
your high road kicks in,
Yeah.
allowing you to assess the situation more calmly. You might notice the snake's markings, its size, and its behavior,
Yeah.
and realize that it's not actually a threat.
So the low road helps us survive, and the high road helps us thrive.
Exactly.
We need both pathways to navigate the world effectively.
Absolutely.
But how does this all relate to art therapy?
So art therapy engages both the low road and the high road,
Okay.
creating this multi-layered sensory experience that can be incredibly therapeutic.
Okay.
Let's say you're working with clay.
Hmm.
You might experience the low road through the immediate sensations of the clay's coolness,
Right.
moisture,
Yeah.
and texture.
Hmm.
That tactile input can be grounding and calming,
Right.
helping regulate your nervous system.
Okay.
And then as you start to shape the clay, your high road kicks in,
Right.
allowing you to explore your creative ideas, express your emotions,
Yeah.
and engage in a process of problem solving and self-discovery.
So it's like the low road provides the foundation for a sense of safety and stability, while the high road allows for deeper exploration and processing.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the nervous system, the limbic system, and sensory processing.
Right.
What about attention?
Mm.
It seems like attention plays a crucial role in art therapy, but it's also something that a lot of people struggle with these days, especially with all the distractions of modern life.
Yeah, for sure.
How can art help us improve our attention? And what's happening in the brain when we become fully absorbed in creative activity?
Attention is like a spotlight that we shine on the world around us,
Okay.
illuminating certain aspects
Right.
while leaving others in shadow.
Yeah.
And just like a muscle, it can be strengthened with practice.
Oh, interesting.
Art making is a wonderful way to train our attention because it requires focus, concentration, and the ability to block out distractions. And when we become fully immersed in a creative activity,
Right.
something magical happens in the brain.
What's that?
We enter a state of flow.
Flow. That's that feeling of being completely absorbed in what you're doing, where time seems to fly by and you're just, fully present in the moment.
Yeah.
It's like being in the zone.
Exactly.
I love that feeling.
It's a wonderful state to be in.
It is.
And it's not just a subjective feeling.
Oh.
Brain imaging studies have shown that when we're in a state of flow, our brains are actually operating more efficiently.
Wow.
We see increased activity in areas associated with focus, creativity, and problem solving, while activity in areas associated with, like self-consciousness and worry, decreases.
So it's like art helps us quiet that, inner critic and
Yeah.
tap into our full creative potential.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
It is.
But how does art help us improve our attention in, everyday life? It's not like we can always be in our art studios creating masterpieces.
That's true, but the skills we develop through art making,
Yeah.
Focus, concentration, the ability to block out distractions,
Right.
those are transferable to other areas of our lives.
Oh.
Think about the focus it takes to carefully blend colors,
Yeah.
or to create intricate details,
Mhm.
or to patiently wait for paint to dry.
Right.
These are all forms of attention training.
Okay.
And as we practice these skills in the art studio,
Yeah.
we're strengthening those neural pathways in our brains,
Right.
making it easier to focus and concentrate in other situations.
So it's like art is a workout for our attention muscles.
It is.
The more we train in the art studio, the stronger they become, and the better equipped we are to handle the demands of everyday life.
Exactly. And this is especially important in today's world,
Yeah.
where we're constantly bombarded with information and distractions.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked about the nervous system, the limbic system, sensory processing, and attention.
Mm-hmm.
What about memory? We touched on this a bit earlier with the hippocampus, but I'd love to delve a little deeper.
Sure.
How are memories formed and stored in the brain? And how can art be used to access and process those memories, especially in a therapeutic setting?
Memory is a fascinating and complex process.
It is.
And it's not just about storing information like a computer.
Okay.
Our memories are intertwined with our emotions,
Right.
our senses, and our personal experiences.
Mm.
And they're constantly being shaped and reshaped as we interact with the world around us.
So it's not like our memories are these fixed, static things.
Well-
They're fluid and dynamic, constantly evolving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And art therapy can be a powerful tool for exploring and understanding those dynamic memories.
Okay.
One of the key ways that art can help us access and process memories is through the use of symbols and metaphors.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how certain colors, shapes, or images can evoke specific memories or feelings.
Right.
For example, the color blue might remind you of a peaceful day at the beach,
Yeah.
while the shape of a heart might evoke feelings of love and connection.
It's like art provides this visual language for expressing and understanding our memories in a way that words often can't capture.
Exactly. And by working with these symbols and metaphors in a therapeutic setting,
Mm-hmm.
we can begin to make sense of our memories,
Yeah.
to process difficult emotions,
Right.
and to integrate those experiences into a more cohesive sense of self.
That makes sense.
Sometimes our memories are, clear and vivid, like
Mm.
snapshots from the past.
Mm-hmm.
But often, our memories are more fragmented, like pieces of a puzzle scattered on a table.
And art can help us put those pieces back together.
Precisely. Art therapy can provide a safe and supportive space to explore those fragmented memories,
Yeah.
to connect the dots,
Yeah.
and to create a more complete picture of our past.
Mm-hmm.
And what's fascinating is that art can sometimes help us access memories that we've buried, deep in our subconscious.
You mean those memories that are so painful or traumatic that we've repressed them,
Right.
pushing them out of our conscious awareness?
Exactly.
Wow.
And these memories can continue to affect us even though we're not aware of them. They can manifest as anxiety, depression, or even physical symptoms.
It's like they're trapped inside, trying to find a way out.
Yeah, and art can be a powerful tool for unlocking those trapped memories.
Wow.
It can provide a safe and non-threatening way to bring them to the surface,
Mm.
to express them, and to begin the process of healing.
That's incredible. It's like art gives a voice to the voiceless.
It does, it does.
Okay, so we've talked about how art can tap into our emotions, our memories, and even our subconscious.
Right.
What about the physical differences in our brains? I know the book discusses gender differences and how they might impact the art therapy experience.
Yeah, this is a fascinating area of research, and it highlights the importance of considering individual differences and how people respond to art therapy.
Mm.
While it's crucial to remember that everyone's brain is unique and we
Mm.
can't make sweeping generalizations based on gender,
Right.
there is a growing body of research suggesting that there are some intriguing neurobiological differences between male and female brains.
Oh.
And these differences can influence how we process emotions, memories, and even how we respond to creative activities.
So it's not about saying that all men's brains are like this and all women's brains are like that.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing that there's a range of variation within each gender and that these variations can impact how we experience and benefit from art therapy.
Precisely.
Got it.
And as therapists, it's crucial to be sensitive to these individual differences and to tailor our approach accordingly.
Right.
For example, some studies have suggested that men tend to be more visual and spatial in their thinking,
Okay.
while women may be more verbal and emotional.
Hmm.
Again, these are just tendencies, not hard and fast rules.
Right, right.
But if we're aware of these potential differences, we can create a more, inclusive and effective therapeutic environment.
So a male client might be more drawn to working with three-dimensional materials like clay or wood,
Yeah.
while a female client might prefer expressing herself through writing or poetry.
That's one possibility. Or a male client might find it easier to express his emotions through abstract art,
Right.
while a female client might prefer creating representational art that tells a story.
Okay.
The key is to meet each client where they are
Right.
and to provide them with the tools and techniques that best suit their individual needs and preferences.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's about honoring the unique wiring of each person's brain and creating a therapeutic approach that resonates with them on a deep level.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, exploring how art therapy impacts the brain,
I have.
from the nervous system and the limbic system
Really?
to sensory processing, attention, memory, and even gender differences.
Amazing, isn't it?
It's a lot.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover about this fascinating field.
I'm already feeling inspired to, go create something.
That's the spirit. And if you're curious to learn more about how art therapy can be used to address specific challenges and improve well-being, join us for part 3 of our deep dive, where we'll be exploring some compelling case studies that really showcase the transformative power of art.
Welcome back to the deep dive. In the first 2 parts of this deep dive, we really dug into the neuroscience behind art therapy. But I'm excited for this last part. I always find real-life examples so powerful. How about you?
Absolutely. Seeing how these concepts actually play out in real people's lives just brings the science to life.
Yeah. Right.
It's one thing to talk about the amygdala and the hippocampus,
Right.
but it's quite another to actually see how art therapy can help someone, regulate their emotions
Yeah.
or process traumatic memories.
It's so true. The book features some really compelling case studies. I was particularly struck by Jo's story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was a young woman dealing with complex PTSD from childhood abuse.
Wow.
It's amazing how art therapy actually helped her work through those traumatic experiences.
Joe's case is a powerful example of how art therapy can be used to address trauma.
Yeah.
She was experiencing flashbacks, nightmares, and just intense emotional dysregulation.
Oh, wow.
Her amygdala, that inner alarm system we talked about, was in a constant state of overdrive.
So she was basically living in a perpetual state of fight or flight.
Basically, yeah.
No wonder she was struggling.
Right.
What kind of art therapy techniques did they use with Joe?
One approach that proved particularly helpful was the use of mandalas.
Mandalas, those circular designs that are often used in spiritual practices.
Yeah.
What do those have to do with trauma therapy?
It might seem surprising,
Yeah.
but creating mandalas can be incredibly grounding and therapeutic,
Okay.
especially for someone like Joe who's experiencing a lot of internal chaos and fragmentation.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the structure of a mandala.
Okay.
It's symmetrical, balanced, and contained.
Yeah.
That visual structure can be incredibly soothing for a nervous system that's constantly on high alert.
Oh, okay. So it's like the mandala provides a sense of order and stability that helps counterbalance that feeling of inner turmoil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the act of creating a mandala requires focus,
Right.
concentration, and fine motor control.
Yeah.
Engaging in those repetitive motions and focusing on the intricate details can be very calming and meditative.
I've noticed that myself. When I'm feeling stressed or anxious, doing something repetitive with my hands, like knitting or drawing patterns,
Right.
can really help me calm down. It's
Yeah.
like my brain gets a break from all the mental chatter, and my body can finally just relax.
Yeah, it's almost like giving your nervous system a gentle massage.
Right.
And for someone like Joe who's dealing with the aftermath of trauma, that kind of soothing, rhythmic activity can be profoundly healing.
That makes a lot of sense. Did they use any other techniques with Joe?
Yes. They also encouraged her to use symbolic imagery in her artwork.
Okay.
She created a series of drawings that depicted different aspects of herself.
Mm-hmm.
The parts that were hurt, the parts that were angry, the parts that were afraid.
It's like she was giving those fragmented parts of herself a visual form, a way to, step outside of the chaos and see them more objectively.
Precisely. And by externalizing those parts,
Yeah.
she was able to start to understand them,
Mm-hmm.
to dialogue with them, and
Yeah.
to begin the process of integrating them back into a more cohesive sense of self.
That's so powerful. It's like art provides a bridge between our conscious and unconscious minds, allowing us to access and process those hidden parts of ourselves that we might not even be aware of.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And it highlights the unique power of art therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about talking about our problems, it's about expressing them,
Yeah.
exploring them,
Right. Yeah.
and ultimately transforming them through the creative process.
Joe's story really showcases the transformative power of art therapy. Are there any other case studies that stand out to you?
There's one that I find particularly fascinating.
Okay.
It involves a group of art therapists who were working with individuals with Alzheimer's disease at an adult day center.
That's such a challenging population to work with. Alzheimer's is such a devastating disease.
It is.
It robs people of their memories, their independence, and ultimately their sense of self. It's heartbreaking to witness.
It is. But what these art therapists discovered was that even though cognitive function is declining in Alzheimer's,
Right.
the capacity for emotional expression and creative engagement remains largely intact.
Okay.
So they developed a program that focused on tapping into those preserved abilities,
I see.
bringing moments of joy, connection, and a sense of accomplishment to people who are often feeling lost and confused.
I love that. It's like they were finding these little sparks of light amidst the darkness, reminding these individuals that they were still capable of experiencing beauty and connection and creativity.
Exactly.
What were some of the key elements of their program?
One of the most important aspects was the use of multisensory stimulation.
Okay.
They incorporated music, movement, and tactile experiences into their art therapy sessions,
Right.
recognizing that those sensory inputs could help stimulate brain activity and engage participants more fully.
It makes sense that engaging multiple senses would be particularly helpful for people with Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
especially as their cognitive abilities decline.
Right.
It's like providing multiple pathways for connecting and engaging with the world.
Exactly. And they also used repetition and familiar routines to provide a sense of structure and predictability,
Right.
which can be very comforting for individuals with Alzheimer's who are often struggling with disorientation and confusion.
That sense of familiarity and routine can be so grounding.
Yeah.
Not just for people with Alzheimer's, but for For all of us, it creates a sense of safety and stability.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And another key element of their program was the emphasis on humor and playfulness.
Okay.
They recognized that these elements could help reduce anxiety and create a more positive and engaging experience for everyone involved.
I love that. We often think of Alzheimer's as this like serious and somber disease,
Right?
but bringing in humor and playfulness can make such a difference. It's a reminder that even in the face of cognitive decline,
Yeah.
joy and laughter are still possible.
Yes. And it's not just about making people feel good in the moment.
Right.
There's evidence suggesting that laughter and humor can actually have therapeutic benefits for people with Alzheimer's,
Hmm.
improving mood, reducing agitation, and even enhancing cognitive function.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like laughter is this like secret weapon in the fight against Alzheimer's.
That kind of is.
But it's not really a secret, is it?
Right.
It's something we all have access to.
Yeah.
We just need to remember to use it.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most important takeaways from this deep dive into art therapy and neuroscience.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we all have this incredible capacity for healing and growth within us.
Mm.
And art can be a powerful tool for tapping into that potential, for unlocking hidden strengths, and for transforming our lives in profound ways.
It's like art is this universal language that speaks to the deepest parts of ourselves, bypassing the limitations of words and connecting us to something larger than ourselves.
Beautifully said. And as we learn more about the brain and the transformative power of art, I think we're only just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible.
I agree.
I'm excited to see where this field goes in the years to come.
Me too. It's a field that's brimming with potential and possibility. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive into art therapy and neuroscience. This has been such a fascinating and inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, keep creating, keep exploring, and keep diving deep into the wonders of your own brain.
If this deep dive piqued your interest, we highly recommend checking out Art Therapy and Clinical Neuroscience. It's a fascinating exploration of the powerful connection between art and the brain, packed with insightful research and inspiring case studies. Until next time, keep exploring.